So I'm going over the final project criteria just to make sure everything's clear, and I want to start with the document setup and file organization, which I allot 20 points to. Two folders, in case it's not clear. It has to do with, two folders minimum has to do with just setting up all your images and your texts so that it's really easy to find, because with InDesign, it's incorporating many documents together. And if one of those documents gets lost, then it'll show up as a missing link in your InDesign document, and it will not come out the way you want it to. Like if, for example, if an image is missing, it will come out blurry when it gets printed, and that would not be good. So I want to just show you an example of Terry Rydberg's organization here with the Healthy Pets newsletter and from chapter 8, how everything here is all organized so nicely. So she had her InDesign file, and then here's the file that I worked on. So it's in the same folder because all the images are linked from it. The snippets have their own folders, so they're really nicely organized and well named as well. The way she named it, I think, is genius. Like P2 for page 2, spread, head, whatever. It's very self-explanatory. P3 means page 3. So it's just super clear what goes on every page. And then newsletter articles. All her Word documents have their own folder. So it's super clear where they go and where she can find them if she ever needs to update a link. And then instead of images, she calls her photos links. They go in the links folder, but they're all like her Illustrator document, her Photoshop documents, one PDF that's of the logo. So, but they're all really easy to find and organize so that in the case that she's ever missing a link, she'll know where to go to fix it. Okay, so for the next part about regarding fonts, oftentimes Terry Rydberg includes the fonts in a font folder, just like in addition to her images and her snippets and her articles and images, whatnot. She'll have a separate folder for fonts. I have to find that chapter where it is. Okay, I found it. It was in chapter 5, the tabs demo folder. She had a separate folder with all these different fonts. And this is what it looks like. Chaparral Pro, Caslon, Pro Italic, Myriad Regular, etc. So you can go ahead and create a folder encompassing or to place all the fonts that you used in your document, or you can just turn your fonts into outlines. So I find turning fonts into outlines is easier than sending all the fonts, especially because you don't know if they're using, I think Mac and PCs use different fonts, like you'd have to send different font files. I think it's just easier to turn your text into outlines than to try to send your fonts to the printer. This is when you would send your work to get printed, and you want to make sure that it doesn't come out looking like a default font. For example, if you use some really fancy script and they don't have that script, it'll probably replace it with something as generic as Times New Roman, and it's not going to look the same. You'll be very disappointed. So let me show you how to do that. I'm using the Healthy Pets newsletter as an example, and just to make sure that that Healthy Pets looks proper, because especially with this one, you don't want to replace the title of your newsletter with a different font because it's going to change the look of the newsletter. This is the font of choice for the newsletter. It's like part of its identity. So what you would do is you'd make sure, let's see what font it was, Adobe Garaman Pro. Now that's actually a pretty common font that probably most people will have on their computer, but even so, just to be sure, you would want to turn it into outlines if it's something that's super important. So I think it's, let's see, type create outlines. And basically what happens is, now if I zoom in, I can show you that basically each letter has turned into an image. Let me see if I can grab one individually, but it's a vector image with points, and I could actually move these points if I